Hello viewers, welcome back. So in the second video, we looked at the general settings of Excel settings. So in this video, we are going to look at the formula settings. So as we mentioned, we want to move from the general settings over to the formula settings now. And we can use the up and the down arrows on the keyboard to do that navigation. So for instance, we can go down to formulas, back to general settings, etc. So this is what they're meaning. We can use these down arrows to move from this to that, like that, like that. So now what we want to focus on is the formula settings. So as we've seen through that navigation arrows on our left hand side, let's now land here on formulas as we've done and discuss some of these settings that we can see. So let's look here at our right hand side, and we'll try to look at let's try to focus on these calculation options. The calculation options, these are the ones that we are talking of, the one that are within here. All of these are calculation options. We effectively have two extremes. We have two extremes where we could set these settings. At the bottom, we could set everything to be completely manual. These are the extremes that we are talking about. We can actually set it to be at the bottom here manually, to do everything manually. So being completely manual, in this case, we could need to manually update. In other words, we could need to manually click to update the file. And usually we do this by hitting the F9 shortcut. That is what we do by manual placing. In other words, everything to be adjusted needs to be done manually. In other words, you have to hit the F9 key. But this is not actually our preferred setting. Our preferred setting would be up here, automatic mode. This one, automatic mode. So this way we can be assured that the file is always completely up to date at all times. That would be our preferred mode. So generally, it's our recommendation that you should stay on automatic mode. It's generally our recommended mode to be in the automatic mode. In other words, everything that we need to work on should be updated by itself at all times. The only time that you would shift down to this setting in the middle, the one you're seeing here, automatic, except for data tables, the only time that you would shift down to this setting in the middle is if you had to file, if maybe you had two files with lots of data tables that were really consuming the computer processing power. In this case, this may be more efficient, but for us, we are going to keep it in the automatic mode. So that's what we actually prefer. We prefer to be in the automatic mode. But even if you put it at this point automatic, except for data tables. At least it is all the time automatic. Only when it is on those data tables that it will not be automatic. So we can either ways write, but just know what we have to be doing is that we have to be on the automatic mode. Even that one is automatic. It will only not be automatic when you have data tables. So either way of the two settings is right. So as you can see, we have activated the shortcut by using the mouse, but also use the keyboard. You can also use the keyboard to do that. In order to use the keyboard, you look for the letter that is underlined in the word. In other words, when you are looking at all these words up here, there is a letter that has been underlined. From this automatic, we have A is underlined. From this, we have D is underlined. From manual, we have M that is underlined. From recalculate workbook before saving, we have this W underlined. So the reason as why you are seeing those lines, or you are seeing some letters underlined, is to guide you on the shortcuts that you should use. For example, here we have, as we've seen, we have A underlined. Over here, the D is underlined over here. And down here, we are seeing that this M is underlined. So what we are going to use, what that means is that we are going to use the Alt key. When you click the Alt key, that Alt key to get to those letters, you will see that when you press the Alt key, maybe we can just put it to that point, we say Alt D. So this is how we actually change some of those things. You are seeing this Alt M. So that's how basically we change some of those items. So finally, over here we have a setting that says enable italic calculations. Some financial models have circular loops or circular references in them. And this setting is needed in order for the computer to be able to solve the circular references or the circular loops. So if this is not active, it means it won't actually work out. So for those financial models that have that circular referencing or those circular loops, then we need to have that checked. So if it is checked, then it will help us to be able to solve the circular loops. Now what we are going to recommend is that you uncheck this selection, and you can see that I is underlined. So if you uncheck it, you are seeing that this I is underlined. So when you place Alt I, when you place that Alt I, it will take you to that same point, and you'll find that you have that highlighted. So, and the reason as why we prefer to have this unchecked is if we create a circular calculation in the workbook, then having this unchecked will generate an error message, which acts as a little bit of an alert, just to let us know that we have created a circular calculation. Because if we leave this one checked, it means we will not know that we have actually gotten a circular calculation. But if we leave it that way, when it is unchecked, it means the software or Excel will make an error or will make an alarm to let us know that we have actually done what we call iterative calculation. But if you want the answer to come out without bringing that error, then you can leave that checked. So that's the only reason as to why we prefer to have that one unchecked, so that we can be able to have that reminder that what we are doing is a circular calculation. So that's what we are focusing on under workbook calculations. Now finally, down here, if we scroll to the bottom, if we scroll down to the bottom, you are going to see that we have the ability to enable background error checking. We have the ability here to enable background error checking. Now, if you have error checking, if you have this error checking enabled, in other words, if that enable background error checking is active, in other words, it is checked, then Excel is going to flag errors using a flag of this color. And by default, this is green, because this is the color that we are seeing inside there. The color that is here is green. That is by default. But you can actually have the ability to change that color to any color that you wish. You can actually change this color maybe to yellow, to red, to blue, whichever color, but it is by default green. So that's the flag that you will see, which will show that there is an error. So now with error checking enabled, Excel will flag anything below this line as an error. And one thing that we find above this is that it can be a little bit overwhelming, and Excel can actually flag a lot of things which are technically not errors. And this may lead us to ending up with a lot of green flags appearing in the files that we are working in. So you may want to uncheck some of these items. For instance, if we were to uncheck all of these ones and uncheck up here, some of these items, that like the way you are seeing them down here, they are all going to be looking as if they are errors, even when they are not. But if you uncheck that, then it means some of these, and you remove some of these, you may find that they are not going to be bringing errors. So unchecking that is helping us to avoid those unnecessary green flags that may come up as errors even when they are not errors. So if we want to maybe to uncheck all of these ones that you are seeing here, we uncheck all of them and we uncheck the other one, what we are going to be having is, it's going to actually, that would actually leave just cells containing formulas that result in an error as the error check. So this might be a prudent way to set up the error checking so that it doesn't flag too many unnecessary things. So for us, we prefer not to enable the error checking, and we actually check this off. So we put this, we check it off. because of the reasons as I've told you. If you leave this one on like that, these are the rules that we are going to find that are going to be in terms of the Excel is going to raise flags. But if we only leave this, the first one, cells containing formulas that result in an error, and we leave maybe that one, it will create something that will help us to find that we actually have an error, because some of them, they are going to bring those red flags and you think you've made a mistake, yet they are not actually mistakes. So that might be prudent, might be a prudent way to set up the error checking, so that it doesn't flag too many unnecessary things. So for us, we actually prefer to enable, not to enable the error checking, and you actually check this off, but it would be your choice as to whether or not you turn that feature on in this software. So it's up to you to just leave it the way you're seeing, or you can actually leave it unchecked. Either way is going to be right. So again, just for a quick recap, the main things in this formula section would be to keep on automatic mode unless you have a lot of data tables. If you find that in your data you have a lot of data tables, then what you have to do is you have to go with this second one. But if you don't have data tables, then it means you go by the automatic. That is the most important thing from the formula setting. Because if you have lots of data tables, in this case, you could switch down to automatic except for data tables. Because if you make those data tables automatic, it will bring wrong results, and therefore you'll make wrong analysis. So by default, you want to disable the italic calculations, and we would prefer not to use error checking down here. And if you were to use the error checking, make sure that you only check off the line item down here that actually want Excel to highlight, that you want actually Excel to highlight. Because some of these that you are seeing, they are checked. There are some of the things they may not necessarily mean they are errors. So this one you can uncheck them. If you are to use this, maybe you just leave only this. If you are to use this, you uncheck all of these, like this, all of them, and just leave only this one. But for now, I'm just going to leave them the way they are. So let's jump ahead and we will see in the next video we try to see other settings other than those two that we've looked at, because those two that we have actually looked at, they are the main settings that we need to put more emphasis on. But we are going to also look at other settings that we need to set up in our Excel setting. So we see you there.